So here's the okay. Familiar with the Boston bombing hoax, and it was a hoax. We're familiar with the Sandy Hook hoax, and it was a hoax. Thank you, Kelly Wanderlust. Where do we go today? Satanic Burger King. Well, Wendy's was closed. Did Wendy's close down and nobody told Kelly? Or rather, no, Kelly knows. Nobody told me. Alright, so here's what we want to do. I want to focus on an industry that many of you are not familiar with. Some of you are. It doesn't matter. Everybody is somewhat familiar with. This is the film industry. Okay? Film, television, whatever. A production industry. Now, you take a production of any kind, your favorite big budget movie, doesn't matter what it is. You have a hierarchy here. You have the producer. He's the guy who puts up the producers are the ones who put up the money, folks. Those are the backers. They put up the money. This goes for anything. On Broadway, they're called angels. They are the ones who back it financially. They put up the bread. It's a gamble. It's always a gamble. The director is the one who sits around and tells people the way to act, what to say. I'm sorry, yeah. They have a vision of where they want this to go. The writers are the ones who really dictate. The writers and the director are the ones who really dictate. You all know this. But if you look at it as a business, because that's what it is, it's nothing less than a business, and a very big one at that. Let's take it down. Let's reduce it to the size of a TV show so we can deal with the analogy. Okay, pick your favorite TV show. Oh God, I don't know any TV shows nowadays, so we'll pick one of my favorite shows. Oh, fine, Cheers from the 80s. Okay, remember the Cheers? Sam and Diane and Coach and everybody, and Norm and Cliffy. Well, I'm glad you asked me that question, Nami. Okay, we got all these people, right? Now, the writers of the show are the ones who write the content. The producer is the one who backs it with the money, and the director sits off to the side and says, "Now you want to say it with a little more feeling. Now you want to punch it a little more. Now I think you ought to do that again. Take two. I wasn't happy with that." That's what the director does. Okay? The writers don't have a lot to say at that point. The actors, strangely enough, don't have anything to say about it. They are hired to do one thing: deliver the lines and otherwise shut up. Very few actors have any input into what's going on. Some do. And the more famous they become, the more influence they like to think they have. And many of them go into directing and producing themselves so that they can have complete control, because they've been in the shoes where all they're allowed to do is say their lines and shut up. Okay, this is how it works. Now, there's all kinds of things that goes into producing the TV show Cheers. There's camera people, there are angles, and they don't just film from one camera, they film from 3 separate cameras, sometimes more. They sit around on a cutting room floor in the editing room and decide which ones are the best ones, which one captures the right angle. If something doesn't look right, they shoot it again. They will go in and shoot an empty scene. They will go in and shoot. They'll do it a million times until it looks just right to the editors. A completely separate department. Now, the people in charge who are in the cutting room floor, who are in the editing room, the editors, the ones who do the final clips, they are in touch with the director and the producer. Writers, not so much. Certainly not the actors. This is the way it goes. Now, if you are a star on that show, if you're Sam or Diane, or even a minor character like Fraser, who popped in and out every once in a while, and you're there all the time, you are more hip to what is going on around you. You pretty much get a flow of the way the show is going. You pretty much understand what the episode is about, where it's going, where the plot is going. You pretty much know. However, there are something called extras. Extras, under fives, day players, whatever you want to call them. They're the ones who are filling the tables in the bar and sitting around the bar, who have no lines, who are just there. They're just filling the crowd. These people don't say a word. And these people are in everything. Every commercial, every television show, every movie, everything. There are extras. And if you watch, and I remember at some point I had to start as an extra at one point, and you have to sit there and you have to make animated conversation with the person across from you, but you can't say anything. You have to do it quietly. Like this. You have to go, but you can't gesticulate too wildly or you'll distract from what's going on behind you, because the sound remains the same. So you have to shut up. And an interesting thing about seeing people in the background of things, if you mute the volume, you can see everybody. If you leave it at full volume, you can't really see them very well because the main characters and the volume of what you're listening to takes over. But those people, those extras who are sitting in the background, filling the chairs, playing the part of people who are patrons of chairs, they don't really have any idea what's going on during that episode. They couldn't care less. They're just there to pretend to be there, and they get paid and they leave, and that's it. They have no idea what the plot of the show is. They certainly have no idea where the entire series is going, and for the most part have no idea where the series began. They don't care. That's not what they're there for. Are you beginning to understand? Now, if people, let's suppose Sam and Diane have a scene where they have to, I don't know, they're making out on a bar and they fall off the bar and land on the floor. They step out and stunt people step in. And if, here's an example, if Sam gets Diane in a compromising position, and she pops her dress and oops, we expose a little, well, that's not the actress, that is a body double. This is how it works. Now, with that perspective in mind, I'm going to move ahead with this scenario in just a quick second because I didn't check the camera. I don't even know if it's on. I'll be right there. So, with that layout in mind, with that template in mind, now we move over to something like the Boston bombings. With that in mind, with the main cast, the writers, the directors, the producers, the extras, and everybody else. Now, we look at these crisis actors, and we know they're crisis actors, they know they're crisis actors. Then we look at the victims and the families of the victims, and da-da-da-da. We know they are very small bit players, and there are extras everywhere. This is a production, and it's quite simple to see. Take that same business model and put it onto Sandy Hook. It is a production, and it's very simple to see. Take that exact same model and put it onto NASA. It is very clear to see. To me, it could not be more transparent. These are actors. The main players are actors. They are not the writers. They are not the directors. They are not the producers, certainly not. They are merely actors. And there are extras. And believe me when I tell you, there are people working to build sets. There are people working behind the scenes who make the bar at Cheers look very realistic. These people have real jobs. They're doing real things. There are people in the lighting department who make sure the lighting is just perfect. There are people in the props department who make sure that you know, every vase with a flower on it on every table looks just right. That every candlelit scene looks just perfect. That's what they do. There are so many things involved in a production. And if you look at NASA as nothing more than a production, a movie, then you begin to understand that these astronauts are nothing more than actors. Now I ask you, with a budget of 20 or whatever it is, $21 million a day, how many how much can they pay their actors? Well, the last season of Seinfeld, in the 90s, the main players each got $1 million per episode, once a week. And they got filthy dirty rich. And of course, Jerry got paid twice because he was the star and the writer-director. So he got double salary. But these people got filthy dirty rich, and the show still made a hell of a lot of money through advertisements. So it was a win-win-win. Now, if you take somebody like Scott Kelly, you don't need an astronaut. You need simply an actor who's willing to work for, oh, I don't know, $1 million per show. Would you? If somebody approached you and said, look, here's what, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now we've all seen, this takes me to another point on that point. We've all seen how badly they act. They don't say their lines very well. And this led me to a conclusion while I was watching one of Jaren's vids, that these people, since they have to do these acrobatic type things, since they have to hang upside down with their temples throbbing all the time, since they have to do all these physical maneuvers, these may very well not be so much actors as they are highly paid stunt people. And I would put it to any Hollywood stunt man and any Hollywood stunt woman out there, would you do an episode for $1 million? Would you keep your mouth shut if you were being paid $1 million per episode? Like the cast of Seinfeld 20 years ago? With a very much smaller budget? $22 million a day for a film budget is a hell of a lot. That's a hell of a lot of money. So, if you look at it that way, and they don't have to know everything at all they have to do is they're blocking. Now, there are people who, choreographers, come out and they tell you, stand here, move here, look at the camera at this point, make eye contact, look that way, do this. These are called choreographers. They, you know, most folks know choreographers from dancing. That's what they do. So, the entire thing is orchestrated, choreographed, and everything. The only thing that's missing in a NASA production is the beautiful music, right? They don't have the music because it's supposed to be, but they do in fact have music. It's the background chatter, and we're moving it closer to the thing, you know. And European Space Agency does it, the Russian Space Agency, the Chinese, they all do the same thing. They do have background music. It's the shitty little voices you hear from Houston Control and all that crap, Mission Control, whatever country they happen to be in. And if I gotta say, the Chinese have shitty actors. So, if you look at it from that perspective, it is exactly what it is. That's what we're looking at. Now, my problem lies here. Yes, I see it. Of course I do. And now, hopefully, you see it too. Those involved on camera and near the camera, including the cameramen, they couldn't give a rat's ass what the production is about. They're being paid to do their job. Nor do they know the entire plot of the series, where it's going. They don't care. And the people who are busy building the sets and making the parts, they are actually building the sets and making the parts. Yes, they are. And they can swear up and down that that's what they're doing, truthfully, because that is what they're doing. They have no idea what the producers, directors, and writers have in mind. They don't know, and they don't care. They're doing their job. Now, so it's a production, guys. Now, I want to take this a step further for all of you to really, really hammer this home. I've been watching footage from the Vietnam War, raw footage. I've been watching footage from World War II. I've been looking at films that depict World War I. I've been looking at footage from World War I. I've been looking at what I can find of the photographs from the Civil War. I want to ask everybody a very simple question. If they take that model of a television show or a movie Movies are even bigger and more spectacular with many, many, many more extras involved. And they get paid what they get paid. And I gotta tell you, if you're sitting on a Hollywood set and you're an extra and you're making $600 a day just to sit there, and you happen to be in a big crowd scene, and the fucking roof caves in and breaks your leg, oh fucking well, that's too bad for you. You know? Sure, they'll pay your medical bills and shit, but the simple fact is, yeah, it was an accident, you got caught. It does happen. It has happened. People died making Ben-Hur. This kind of stuff does happen. Life happens. So does death. In the industry. Now, as I'm watching the footage from these various wars, I have already come across many, and so will you, from the Gulf War in the 90s. There was a bunch of horse shit, so it turns out. My question is, based on this model, what exactly went down in Vietnam? What exactly went down in World War II, World War I, the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, all this stuff? Everything I've seen is narrated footage. Yes, we see bodies. Yes, we see footage. But what exactly are we looking at? Now, I was watching a mini documentary today on Vietnam, and I saw it last night at some point. And I watched the footage, and it was being narrated by one of the quote-unquote survivors of it, one of the higher-ups in the military, not a higher-up, like a lieutenant or some damn thing, who was in the trenches there that day, and they were talking to another war hero, and they were recounting their story. So I muted it and just watched the footage. The footage itself is extremely unconvincing of anything. I'm not trying to piss off veterans. What I'm trying to get across to you people, those of you who will listen to what I'm saying, those of you who know me, what I'm trying to get across is that these people, these soldiers, are nothing more than extras in a production. And if shit happens to them, it happens to them, but that's not the point. The point is they're just extras. The main players, the General MacArthurs, the highly paid actors, like General Eisenhower, these are highly paid actors. They are not the producers, directors, or writers. They're simply actors. So they're more clued in as to what the entire series is about, or the entire plot of the movie, but they still are only actors. And they are being paid and compensated in whatever way. I'll be right back with part 3 because I think I'm taxing this camera. I'll be right there. Okay, back with part 3. So my point here really is that I'm not saying that these wars didn't happen. I'm not saying it's not real. I'm not saying that stuff. I'm saying if you put on the television show and movie industry glasses and put that aspect of it in your head and look at it through that lens, look at everything through that lens for a few minutes, it will resonate with you. Now, I'm not trying to offend anybody. Like I said, I don't want to offend anybody. I don't know if what I'm saying is true or false. All I'm saying is, if you look at it from that perspective, as nothing but a big movie with a cast and a crew and extras and set builders and choreographers and lighting specialists and makeup artists and everything else, people in charge of wardrobe, I mean, Lucille Ball didn't walk across a set without 95 women chasing her around, fixing her wardrobe, making sure everything looked perfect. That's one woman on one show. 80 years ago, 70 years ago. So, keep in mind what Hollywood does. Okay. Now, again, looking at that from a perspective of a production, makes certain things very clear. One is that the actors don't really know where the writer went with his plot. The actors are not aware of what the producers and directors and writers got together and agreed on. The actors are not aware of what is going to happen in the editing room. None of that is they're not aware of any of it. What I'm telling you is that Winston Churchill and Adolf Hitler and Franklin Delano Roosevelt were highly paid actors. That is all they are. That is all they ever were. And they've each got their parts to play. And unfortunately, those who fought, if they fought, were nothing but paid extras. Paid how? Well, the military pays people. Not much, but about at the same rate that a Hollywood extra would get paid for his particular part in that particular size budget production. And I'm not trying to hate on anybody. Anyone who fights and dies is a hero and all that stuff, but they don't know what they're doing. That's what I'm saying. They don't really know what they're doing. Now, my father was in the Navy. My father is extremely old, chronologically. He's not the least bit old physically, but chronologically he's getting up there. So he was 17 in World War II, and he was in the Navy. Then he came back and finished high school. But my dad never saw any action. And I've talked to a few people about this. How many people actually saw action? How many people actually killed somebody? There are very few. And what did they actually do? Okay, I've covered that topic before, but I want to expand on this. Excuse me. Thank you, Kelly Wanderlust, for the Satanic Burger King today. It is a very thick ragweed day. It's raining, it's foggy, it's weird. And tomorrow, strangely, is supposed to be clear, like crystal clear. So I think we're in the middle of yet another weather heave here. Okay, so with that idea in mind, let's expand it even further and take it to the United States of America and China and Russia and Britain and everybody else. The President of the United States, the Prime Minister of Britain, the Queen, the President of Russia, who used to be the Tsar, or the Premier, then became President. These are all they are highly paid actors. We are extras, playing the part of United States citizens. And if you look at the payroll, we're being paid the same way as if we were extras on a TV show. Now, like I've said before, we got very lucky being cast as Americans. We could have been cast as Soviets. We could have been cast as Chinese peasants. We could have been cast as anybody. We drew the long straw, and we did all right. Could have been a hell of a lot worse. Those of us who are in quote-unquote Western nations, free quote-unquote nations, we got lucky because we're playing the part of free people. And oh brother, did we get lucky. So, with that in mind, let's take it all the way back. I do not, for one moment, believe anymore anything I'm told. I don't believe there are nuclear weapons because they scare people. I don't believe there is war because it scares people. I don't believe I know there are no ICBMs. I know Russia can't nuke us from its own soil because those missiles would have to go into space, and that doesn't work, guys. So we know that's a bunch of horse shit. As for nuclear bombs themselves, I don't believe it. It's too scary. I don't believe in nuclear waste. I don't believe in any of it. These are special effects. Like anything else, they have the special effect program department in any production. Go back and remember Ronald Reagan and the whole Star Wars thing? Guess what? Doesn't work with no space, does it? It was a joke. And the Soviets putting up theirs and not being able to match it financially, so Reagan basically bankrupted the Soviet Union by outspending them because of his space weapons? What? Come on. You can't get that shit into space. You can't go into space. There is no space. So what happened? What happened was a big movie. That's all that happened. And there are various parts of it. You know, if you're following a book, there's part 1, there's chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. If you're making a movie out of a book, hey, that's what you do. And which brings me to Peaches and Speeches and the Bible and the playbook that they're using to power this story forward. And I also want to go back to pre-mass media. How did they pull this stuff off? Well, I want to run something past you guys. When they deliver us news, which we know now is not news at all, it's made up gossip. It's just gossip. The news is gossip. That's all. Here's what happened on that street today. The street that, you know, the Chinese street did this today, and those evil Russian streets, this is what they did over there. That's all it is. Hauling out everyone's dirty laundry. And they're making it up. But if we go back to a time before mass media, who is their audience? When they tell us something today, they're talking to extremely sophisticated people who know better. And they've still got 99.9% of us fooled. Very few of us are onto it. Who were they talking to in 1850? Take a snapshot in your mind of the year 1850 in rural America. Somewhere out where you've got 800 acres and you got a little house on the prairie. And you do things by horseback and mule, and you deliver your mail by Pony Express. Who exactly is how much do these people know about what the plan is? How much do these people know about who is writing, directing, producing, and making the world go around? How does this hayseed in Nebraska in 1850, how the fuck does he know what's going on in Washington, D.C., or Moscow, or London, or where the people who are writing the script? How does he know? He doesn't know. He knows only what he's told. Only what he's told. And by God, when the printing presses began and the telegraph came in, they were told, just like we are today. I submit to you that everything they've told us is a damn lie. Everything. Don't believe me? How did Reagan make Star Wars work? How did the whole Star Wars program in the 80s work without any space? Reagan knew that. Everybody knew that. Up there, up at the top levels, they knew that. Now, I will tell you, I will submit to you this. Some of these actors don't really need to know, because they're not the writers and directors and producers. So the actors may not need to know. But you can't tell me, after 8 years, in the highest office of the land, the highest paid actor in the land, that you don't begin to get a feeling of what's going on. Oh, and then guess what? Oh yeah, and then he got, then he spent how many years having to be sequestered from the public because he got Alzheimer's and just couldn't remember any damn thing, and no one saw him, and then he died quietly. Yeah. I'm not saying anything happened, I'm just saying, and I want to take this even further. I'll be right there. Okay, this will be the last part because, I think, although the mouth never shuts up, so hopefully, for your benefit, this will be the last part. I've had the heat on in here. It's getting a little warm in the car now, so I'm going to open up the window and smoke a damn cigarette. Hey everybody, Jazz Sinclair here. Earth is flat as a pancake, baby. Of course it's got contours, you idiot, but there's no curve. I don't know what it is, but I know what it's not. So, let me get back to this. I want to paint you a picture now. I want you to see the Catholic Church, and I want you to see the hierarchy. Can you see this? Can you see the Pope? Can you see the cardinals? Can you see this structure, this hierarchy of power, all the way down to the priest in the pulpit and the various helpers in each individual church, all the way down to the choir master, all the way down? Can you see a 12-year-old boy walking in to a dark closet, sitting down and confessing everything he's done to a grown man sitting in a cubbyhole next to him, listening and taking fucking notes and reporting everything he hears about everybody up the chain of command all the way to Rome? Can you see this happening? Can you see the horror of a perfectly normal human being walking into an enclosed chamber, sitting down and confessing everything they have done to a man, not to God, to a man? And not just any man, but a man who then turns around and reports to his bishop, who then reports to his archbishop, who then reports to a cardinal, who then reports to the pope, who then knows every fucking thing you've ever done. All over the world. Can you see this power? They don't just know what you're doing, they know everything you did wrong. To me, it's disgusting. No man may judge me. No man is my confessor. I think the whole idea is vile. And of course, pedophilia runs rampant. Of course, alcoholism and everything else. Half the priests that ever were died of alcohol. I mean, they all fucking drank themselves to death. What is this oath of celibacy? First of all, they don't follow it. Second of all, how are you going to know somebody? If you've never been with a woman, how the fuck are you going to tell me about being with a woman? You don't know anything, buddy. Now, I could tell you about it. We could switch places. You confess to me the fact that you're afraid to approach a woman, and I'll help you through it. But it ain't going to be the other way around. And how dare you talk to a child? So, okay, I'm over that. But that is a horror show since the beginning of whenever. I guess since the beginning of the plan. Now, okay, all that aside, you take the hayseed in Nebraska in 1850. Were there any hayseeds in Nebraska in 1850? Anyway, assuming there were. He is a modern man compared to a peasant in Romania in the year 1200. What the fuck does that person know? Nothing. Only what they're told. So this takes me all the way back to the beginning. What happened? Who said there was a Bible? Who wrote it? I'm not trying to piss off anybody. I'm asking a question. Who wrote it? Oh, well, these people wrote it and those people wrote it. It was written. Really? Who told you that? Now, I'm not going to belabor that one because there are plenty of other people out there asking questions about the Bible. I happen to think the Bible is an extremely good resource of information, and I enjoy the parables and I enjoy the good stuff we can draw from it. I don't take it literally, and there isn't anyone who I respect who actually does take it literally. So, I'm going to drop that right there, but I will say this. The same people who brought you the dictionary and all these spells are the same people who brought you everything. Were you born in a cave with a cave family, you would know nothing of this stuff. Every day would be a wonder. Everything we know we were told, and we were told by liars. Everything. As I've said, nothing written in a science book is any more valid than anything written in the Bible. They're equal to me. I find them fascinating. I can gather information from them, but I do not follow them, simply because I don't know where they came from. Anyone can hold up a piece of anything and say, this is the one. Bullshit. So my question is, previous to mass communication, literally, previous to us being able to talk to each other. Now, I know that my parents and those in the 20th century, my parents, my grandparents, I know that they all had mass communication. Telephone, radio, television, they had it all. And I believe them about their parents. The horse and buggy days. But this is a very sophisticated society also, with newspapers and telegraph and everything else, cities. So at what point did these stories of dinosaurs and Darwin and evolution and biblical beginnings and all of this, when did this begin to happen? When did people absolutely know? Well, we didn't know that the Earth was a globe until 1968, when they finally snapped a damn picture, or 1972, when they took a fucking picture and lied to us about it. So they never did find out. Now, to this day, they've never found a missing link. So, have they ever found anything about religion? And I don't mean the Shroud of Turin. I don't know if any of this is true or not. My question holds, though. Before we were all able to communicate with each other, what do we know? Was there a year 1800? Was there a George Washington? I'm asking you straight. Do you know George Washington? Have you met his parents? Did you go to school with him? I've seen his house at Mount Vernon. We all have. I've been to Monticello to see Jefferson's house. That doesn't tell me anything. Because I can also go check out Tom Cruise's, house in Beverly Hills, or wherever the hell he lives. It doesn't mean anything to me. Who are these people? When did this fiction begin? Because it is fiction. It's all fiction. Was there a year 1700? Do the math on the population calculator. You'll find out quickly that the numbers don't work. So when are we? When did this begin? I submit to you that we are nowhere where they said we were. We are no time they say we are. Everything they're saying is wrong. And no one is in charge. There is nobody in charge, guys. An actor playing a part is not in charge of you. There ain't nobody in charge. We are free to run this asylum if we want to. That's my point underneath all of it. If you can unbind yourself, if you can become unbound, if you can be free enough to understand that there was no Star Wars program that put an end to the Cold War because there's no space, if you can free yourself of that, if you can free yourself that Vietnam was never our enemy, if you can free yourself that neither was Germany, if you can free yourself that the North and the South really had no troubles, if you can free yourself, it was all a political game, which equals acting. It was all just agendas like they're doing today. If you can free yourself enough to see everything that's ever been as nothing but a hoax in the media and a movie and a TV show, then you're free enough to understand that you can walk off the set. And as we're walking off the set, it becomes more and more comical to look back on the tools they use to keep us there. Like the globe, like news, like television, like movies, like science books that are all wrong, like, the Bible, holy books, anything to keep us answering to somebody else. This was not meant to offend anyone. I respect everyone, and you guys know I love y'all. But this all had to be said. There's a script at work here. We're not privy to the script. Most of the people at the top are not privy to the script. Only the The writers, producers, and directors are the ones who are privy. The rest of us don't know. The very, very tippity-top starring actors have an inkling, but that's all. The rest of us are just extras, and we don't even know it. We don't have to play. However, like I said before, I'm very glad that I was cast as an extra in the United States of America in the 20th century, and not somewhere else doing something else. For that, I'll always be grateful. Anyway, that's it for now, guys. Hope I didn't piss everybody off, but take a look at everything with the idea that it is nothing more than a giant television show. The Truman Show. It's nothing more than a Hollywood production. That includes your entire life. Because everyone around you thinks they live on the set on Cheers, and they don't. Okay, guys, that's it.